What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the DS Asylum. I'm your warden, Dimitri Strine, and today I wanted to have a little discussion with you guys about unit stats. So when this guy, got his information released, everyone was freaking out over the 320,000 blast attack. He's the first unit to actually break that mark, and he breaks it by a considerable margin. And the thing is, I think people... and even I used to be guilty of this and still kind of am. Like, in the moment, I was also freaking out about this, but then I sat down and thought about it. People seem to underestimate just how meaningless your stats are. Because when you look at 320,000 blast attack, that you just automatically assume, oh my god, he's going to be doing even more damage than LF Gohan. He's even more broken than LF Gohan. And the thing is, he's not even close to LF Gohan. In fact, I'd actually be surprised if this guy even made it into the Z tier. And the only argument that I could see for him being in the Z tier is, one, his last man standing buffs, which, fair enough, and two, the ludicrous amount of damage that super attack does. But my counter argument to that is that super takes quite a bit of skill to actually use. It's just because it's a counter, you can't just throw it out. Not only is it a long animation, but it is the longest animation in the game. If you use a strike card from long range, it's pretty much impossible to actually be hit by that thing, because by the time you vanish, he's just now throwing the super out. So it's pretty much impossible not to be punished if someone does that. So it does take a bit of skill to actually use. You're not, like I said, you're not just going to throw it out and expect it to work. So I guess because of that, because it's not, just some brain dead super, I don't think that should, I do think that should, dock him a few points from the Z tier. Now, I wouldn't be too surprised if he's in it, because again, those last man standing buffs, that is a fair argument. But outside of that, I don't really see this guy even entering the Z tier. And that's kind of crazy when you look at his stats. I mean, the defenses are really good. The offenses are really good. The health is dumb. He's one of are there even 10 units in the game that surpass 3 million health? Without some equipment or whatever. He just has 3 million. No equipment, no health, Z abilities. He just has 3 million, and there aren't too many units that can achieve that. So you would think that this guy is just, outright busted. But stats don't really matter that much. It's the abilities. It's the abilities that make a unit these days. Back when Dragon Ball Legends first came out, year one, abilities weren't this. They weren't, these paragraphs. Abilities were one sentence. You got 35% to key recovery, or you got 20% to damage when switched to standby, or you got 20% to damage when this character enters the battlefield. That was it. There wasn't all of this. So stats actually did matter back then. The higher a unit's stats were, the more broken they were perceived to be. But nowadays, you could be rocking 400k blast attack, but if your abilities are garbage, it doesn't really matter. Sure, you'll do good damage. 320,000 blast attack is nothing to scoff at. He will do good damage, but there's a reason why LF Gohan just outclasses this Goku. There's a reason why LF Gohan literally bumped Vegito Blue down to S tier, which I don't entirely agree with. I do think he still belongs in the Z tier. I don't think just because Gohan went up, Vegito should go down. And me personally, I've always been under the belief that the Z tier should encompass the top 5 units. No matter how big the gap between those units are, it should just be the top 5. So I don't personally agree with Vegito Blue in the S tier, but whether he is or isn't, he outclasses Vegito Blue. Gohan outclasses him, but it's not because of his stats. It's because of his abilities. The reason why Vegito Blue was so dangerous, not because of his stats. If you actually look at Vegito Blue's stats, in fact, let's actually go take a look at his stats. They're not super busted. 3 stars, you look at that, that's pretty average. I mean, for an LF unit, those are pretty average stats at 2 stars. And then you take a look at his 14 stars, yeah, those stats are really good. Those are damn near Zenkai level stats. but that's a 14-star unit. And getting a 14-star LF isn't that easy. Now, I understand we were just looking at Namek Goku at Zenkai 7, 14 stars, but let's be honest here. Most people who have Goku Zenkai'd at all have him at least close to that mark. So it's relevant, whereas people, I don't run into 14-star Vegito Blues every day. I usually run into between 2 and 6. So if you look at his 2 through 6-star stats, it's not that busted. He's not amazing in the stat department. It's those stupid abilities that make him as good as he is. So the point of this video is just to say, don't judge a unit based on its stats. Now, defenses is another story. Like, you take a look at someone like Android 16. Let's just go ahead and, well, actually, no, not 16. Not 16. He actually doesn't have the highest defenses in the game. I believe Demon King Piccolo has the highest defenses in the game. There he is. Mine's only at 3 stars. I hate my life. But you take a look at that, 192,000 strike attack. But you'd actually be surprised at how much damage he still takes, because he doesn't have much in the ways of sustained damage cut in here. He doesn't have really any reduced damage in his entire kit. So you'd actually be surprised at how much damage he can still take, even with, 192,000 strike defense. Now, when I say the story can be different for defenses, you take a look at someone like the Transforming Cell, right? You take a look at his first form defenses, and it's like, yeah, you could probably discern just from looking at that he's so squishy it makes a wet sponge look like a rock. However, he actually tends to survive a combo. Why? Because people's broken abilities usually haven't activated by the time he's on the battlefield, so that's mainly why. But when it comes to low defenses, yes, you could probably judge that. But when it comes to high stats, never judge a unit based on how high their stats are. Because at the end of the day, a unit with high stats doesn't make them OP. It always has been, well, not always has, but since the 1-year anniversary, it always has been and always will be the abilities. You take a look at Super Vegito. I know I'm going on a little bit longer than I need to, but I do think this is relevant. You look at Super Vegito, 2-star stats, I have him at 3. Look at that. Even for the 1-year anniversary, those stats aren't really good. His stats are actually pretty bad for an LF unit, but he was the best unit in the game at a time because of these abilities. So again, I want you guys to take away from this, when you see a unit with broken stats, don't freak out yet. Wait for their abilities to be released and then judge the unit. And even then, units like Champa's really good, but he's definitely not the Z tier unit that you would have expected him to be just from reading his abilities. I mean, the man gets 50% to his damage when he enters the battlefield. That by itself should be enough for you to go, oh god, he's broken. But no, mid-S in my opinion. Mid-S tier. Nowhere near Z. So, yeah. And end of story. I think people should calm down a little bit when it comes to looking at unit stats, because at the end of the day, they're virtually meaningless. It's the abilities that truly matter.